Picture the mind as an invisible loom forever weaving threads of unseen substance into the tapestry we call circumstance. The shuttle that flies back and forth is thought, and each pass leaves a filament of living energy that soon thickens into visible pattern. Most people sit before the tapestry bewailing a design they claim they never ordered, yet the loom moves only at their silent command. I thought is not a wispy nothing, it is matter in embryo, a primordial clay waiting for the heat of feeling to fire it solid. The mental image is the mold, feeling is the kiln, and experience is the glazed stone that emerges. Recall a winter window pane clouded by your breath. At first the vapor is elusive, swirling patterns that fade as quickly as they appear. Touch the glass, let your warm palm linger, and the mist crystallizes into frost so intricate you could believe an artisan carved it overnight. That moment of contact is analogous to emotion applied to an idea. A casual notion I might travel someday floats like fog and evaporates. Infuse it with the visceral thrill of boarding, the scent of jet fuel, the press of passport pages, and the vision takes on structure. Keep stoking that warmth and circumstances the discount fare, the timely invitation form the delicate lattice that supports the journey, just as temperature transforms breath to ice. When I first tested this law, I lived in a cramped apartment overlooking an alley, where stray cats bickered over scraps. My greatest luxury was a wobbly second-hand table upon which I drafted future plans. One rainy afternoon I decided the table would be the birthplace of a miracle. I closed my eyes and felt beneath my fingertips the grain of polished oak, not the chipped veneer before me. I imagined a wide window framing rolling hills instead of graffiti-stained brick, and I allowed gratitude for such surroundings to bloom until it throbbed like music in my chest. Then I rose, brewed tea, and surrendered the scene to the deeper currents of mind. Within a month a distant cousin, unaware of my wish, invited me to house sit her cottage while she toured Europe. I carried no rent, no utilities, only the key and the confirmation that feeling, when married to thought, wields sovereign power. The educational value of that episode lies in its repeatability. And anyone willing to observe inner speech can replicate the process. Begin by sitting quietly for 5 minutes and listening, without judgment, to the monologue that hums beneath awareness. Note how many phrases mock your aspirations or dismiss them as unlikely. This inventory is critical, for untrained thought scatters creative substance like grain before the wind. Next, isolate one desire and craft a sensory-rich scene implying its completion. Do not watch the scene as a spectator. Fuse with it until you taste the coffee in the new office, smell fresh ink on the contract, or feel the cool sheets of the healed body. Sensory vividness provides the density required for condensation. Feeling, however, must be distinguished from frantic yearning. Feverish wanting radiates heat, but it is the heat of friction, not fusion, and it keeps the pattern molten and unformed. Correct emotional temperature is serene expectancy, the atmosphere of a dinner host who sets one extra place because a friend's arrival is certain, though the street outside is empty. That steady warmth, neither overly intense nor doubtingly cool, is the optimal climate for precipitation of form. Many students protest that they cannot sustain such expectancy amid the noise of daily obligations. I remind them that nature herself practices selective attention. In a bustling forest thousands of seeds fall, yet only those that settle into receptive soil germinate. Cultivate short, deliberate intervals, what I call emotional incubators, throughout the day. While waiting for a kettle to boil or an elevator to descend, shut your eyes briefly and replay the fulfilled scene. These micro-rehearsals keep the inner climate constant even when outer winds shift. Skeptics often inquire about apparent accidents contrary to their wishes, a sudden bill, an illness, an argument. Understand that life plays back the aggregate of your accepted assumptions, not the isolated 5 minutes of conscious direction. If unobserved hours are spent criticizing, fearing, or doubting, those strands weave themselves into the tapestry as readily as affirmations of success. The remedy is not despair, but heightened vigilance. Monitor the loom. Correct the shuttle's path the instant it strays. One disciplined thought outweighs a legion of careless ones because intensity compresses time between conception and manifestation. A valuable exercise is to personify each cherished idea as a guest seated at your mental banquet. Feed that guest only conversations congruent with its dignity. If the topic of financial limitation tries to slip in and whisper insults, escort it politely to the door. Soon the original guest prosperity, health, harmonious relationships will feel so at home. It calls companions arriving in the form of opportunities, synchronicities, and inspired action. Finally, keep a ledger not of expenses but of evidence. Each evening record any event, however trivial, that echoes your cultivated thought, an article curiously matching your vision, a stranger uttering a phrase you rehearsed, a sudden lift in mood without visible cause. These entries are the equivalent of a scientist's lab notes confirming a hypothesis. Over time, the ledger becomes a fortress of conviction. You will no longer wonder if thought creates, but only what you intend to create next. Thus, the recognition of thought as creative substance marks the first indispensable lesson. Grasp it, practice it, and the seeming solidity of the world will soften beneath your intent, responding with obedient precision to the patterns you impress upon its unseen depths. Few transformations are more demanding or more liberating than the moment you seize complete authorship of your life. It begins when you stand before every fact, pleasant or painful, and say without tremor, "I did this with the brushstrokes of my consciousness." At first the words taste like ground glass. Habit wants to hurl the shards elsewhere toward the economy, the family, unlucky genetics, even the stars. Yet blame, for all its short-lived comfort, is the most expensive luxury on earth, for it mortgages tomorrow to pay yesterday's debt. The price is paid in forfeited power. Once you grasp that every outer effect is the crystallized shadow of an inner cause, the ledger clears and unlimited credit is restored to you. That realization may bruise the ego, but it awakens the imagination, and imagination is the only treasurer worth serving. I learned this lesson in a sun-scarred boarding house where the air smelled of boiled cabbage and defeat. The rent was late, my pockets thin, and irritation clattered through my mind like coins in a beggar's tin. I blamed clients who forgot to pay and publishers who didn't understand genius. One night, as the ceiling fan stirred humid air, a stern inner voice asked, "Who invited these guests called shortage and frustration?" The answer was unmistakable. I had by talking of scarcity, rehearsing tales of delay, and savoring the sad flavor of self-pity. In that instant, I revoked the invitation. Closing my eyes, I accepted the scene of abundance as fact. I felt notes of currency cool between my fingers and heard my landlady thanking me for being reliably prompt. I went to sleep bathing that inner tableau in gratitude. Within 48 hours, 3 delayed payments arrived, 2 of them from sources I had written off. I did not conjure money from thin air. I merely altered a self-portrait that had been projecting its likeness onto events. Ownership of circumstance is not a philosophical garnish. It is the keystone of deliberate creation. I think of life as a stage whose lighting follows your gaze. Wherever attention lingers, the spotlight intensifies. When a setback occurs, the undisciplined reflex is to glare at the offending prop or actor and narrate its failings to anyone who will listen. The more energy you invest in recounting the wrong, the brighter the spotlight on it becomes until its looming silhouette masquerades as destiny. Withdraw attention, shift the beam toward the preferred scene, and as in theater, the neglected set piece fades into darkness and is quietly wheeled away. Many students protest, "But I didn't choose illness, betrayal, or poverty." Choice, however, operates on 2 levels, deliberate and default. The deliberate choice is the conscious wish statement. The default is the sum of assumed beliefs, casual inner conversations, and habitual feelings that run unattended. These defaults are like auto-drafted letters mailed daily to the subconscious. The subconscious is impeccably literal. It manufactures experiences matching the tone of the correspondence, not its politeness. Thus, a tear-stained plea for relief still carries the scent of misfortune and orders another shipment. To change the order slip, you must change the emotional ink in which it is written. Begin with a daily audit. Sit in stillness for 10 minutes and replay a recent annoyance. Notice the secret satisfaction the mind derives from rehearsing the grievance. That satisfaction is evidence that blame feeds the ego's hunger for superiority. "See how unjustly I am treated." Replace the inner monologue with a prouder claim, I am the sole distributor of meaning in my world, and I now assign this event the role of stepping stone. Speak it aloud if privacy allows, spoken word concretes intention. Observe the subtle lift in vitality when responsibility is reclaimed. Vitality always returns to its rightful owner. Next, craft a first-person scene that contradicts the unwanted fact. If loneliness has been your companion, do not imagine someone loving me someday. Instead, dwell in a moment after the wish is fulfilled. Feel the weight of a familiar arm across your shoulders. Hear shared laughter echoing in a twilight room. Experience the warmth so fully that, upon opening your eyes, the empty chair looks vaguely surprised to find itself unoccupied. By owning the state of companionship internally, you withdraw consent from the story of isolation, and external life must mirror the revocation. Consistency is the testing ground of ownership. Suppose a bill arrives larger than expected. The novice creator flinches, then scrambles to patch the mental picture with frantic visualizations. The practiced creator smiles, for the bill is merely a cameo appearance from an old script already slated for rewrite. Holding the inner scene of surplus steady, they pay what they can calmly, bless the remaining balance, and watch unforeseen channels open. The outer payment is not denial of reality, it is a handshake with it while quietly directing the stage light elsewhere. Keep a journal titled Evidence of Dominion. Each entry should begin, Today I assumed, followed by the state you consciously occupied, and end with, and life echoed thus, recording even the faintest resonance, a compliment, a discount, an encouraging coincidence. Such chronicles amplify awareness of causation and erode the reflex of blame. After several pages, the pattern becomes undeniable. You will notice the world walks in lockstep with the mood you marry. Some fear that claiming authorship makes them responsible for global calamities they neither desire nor condone. Understand that your jurisdiction is personal, the events that orbit your immediate awareness. If news of distant turmoil disturbs you, send forth an imaginal blessing, see the scene resolved, feel relief, and then return to the order of your own kingdom. Constructive ownership never spirals into guilt. It channels attention toward healing pictures rather than helpless commentary. A powerful nightly practice accelerates the shift. Before sleep, recall any incident where you slipped into blame that day. Reimagine the moment with a revised reaction. Thank the traffic jam for giving you time to rehearse gratitude. Bless the sharp remark for toughening your compassion, which transformed the canceled meeting into an unexpected oasis. Drift off while that amended footage loops softly. The subconscious will accept the new version as fact and choreograph tomorrow to reinforce it. Mastery of circumstance through ownership does not guarantee a life devoid of contrast. It guarantees a life where contrast becomes raw material, not cement walls. The potter welcomes fresh clay no matter how misshapen, for within every lump lies a vessel awaiting deft hands. By accepting that every arriving lump has come in response to an inner pulse, you become both potter and pulse, shaping and sourcing, uniting cause and effect in a single conscious center. The world ceases to be something that happens to you. It becomes something that happens from you, through you, for you, at the pace and scale you dare to claim. Hold a stethoscope, not to the heart in your chest, but to the heart in your mind, the ceaseless murmur of sentences that travels with you from the mirror to the market and back again. Those sentences name the weather, evaluate prices, judge appearances, predict delays, rehearse wounds, and congratulate victories. They flow so unremarked that you call them my thoughts, the way a fish calls the tide my water. Yet each word you allow to parade unchallenged across the stage of awareness issues a silent edict to the subconscious, which dutifully sculpts outer events to match the tone of that inner script. Train these sentences, and you refine destiny, neglect them, and you delegate creative power to the gossip of collective habit. Years ago I boarded an overnight train whose corridors smelled of strong coffee and worn leather. My compartment companion was an elderly man with eyes like lanterns. At dusk he drew a battered notebook, wrote a single line, closed the cover, and whispered, I adjust my speech before sleep so the night may echo my choosing. Curiosity overcame courtesy, and I asked what he meant. He explained that every audible conversation begins as silent rehearsal, and that rehearsal may ally with our ideals or betray them. He had lost fortunes following bright ventures, only to bleed them away through mutterings of doubt, and at last discovered that riches and ruin both spring from the tongue, first the invisible one behind the teeth of thought, then the physical one. The next morning I borrowed his practice and found it stricter than any budget, yet richer than any investment. Begin your own practice this very hour. Select a pocket-sized phrase that captures your desired identity. Perhaps everything conspires for my good, or I am the favored child of fortune. Speak it under your breath, until its rhythm feels like pulse and its cadence like breath. Notice that the moment a thought in opposition tiptoes forward, this bill is impossible, traffic always traps me. Nobody appreciates my effort. There is a subtle tightening behind the sternum. That tightening is an alarm bell. Answer it immediately by replacing the offending phrase with your chosen mantra, delivering the substitution with firm gentleness, like redirecting a curious puppy from forbidden shoes to a chew toy. Mastery lies not in never slipping, but in swift correction without self-reproach. To aid this vigilance, treat each wandering corridor of the day as a classroom. In the shower, conduct a dialogue of gratitude with the warm water, affirming that clarity and flow wash through every channel of your affairs. While stirring oatmeal, instruct the grains as you expand kindly beneath heat, so my ideas expand under the warmth of attention. During a commute, rather than cursing red lights, bless them as pauses, allowing imagination to settle instructions into subconscious depths. Convert idle minutes and checkout lines into rehearsals for celebration. Feel a cashier thanking you for surprising abundance. Picture the receipt reading balance due, $0. In this way, every mundane errand becomes a gymnasium where inner speech grows agile and strong. One might protest, surely reality cares nothing for idle chatter. Consider the garden. Seeds are tiny, almost dismissible, yet each carries encrypted forests. A single negative phrase, tossed carelessly into receptive soil, sprouts complaints that wander like vines and choke delicate blooms. Conversely, words of praise are heirloom seeds. They propagate orchards long after the speaker forgets planting them. The soil never discriminates, it incubates. Your mind is such soil. What it hears repeatedly in the hush beneath spoken communication it believes, and what it believes it compels the body to enact and the world to arrange. A useful drill is the mental earworm. Choose a line of uplifting inner speech set to a melody you enjoy. Humming activates breath and vibration, helping statements imprint deeper. I once attached the words "I walk in answered prayer" to the tune of a childhood lullaby. For weeks the song threaded through tasks, until one afternoon it spilled aloud amid friends. Someone laughed and asked if I had reason to celebrate. Within days an overdue opportunity materialized, as though my humming had beckoned it through corridors unseen. When discouragement threatens, and it will in the early stages, remember that the old monologue owns well-worn neural pathways like ruts in a country road. It resists being repaved. Treat resistance as confirmation you are tunneling toward fertile ground. Resist with gentleness, not force. Bark commands breed rebellion. Instead, meet intrusive doubts with a smile. An echo from yesterday. Thank you for reminding me of where I have been. Now let me rehearse where I am going. Then repeat chosen phrase with renewed calm. The echo fades by disuse. One evening experiment will clarify the mechanics beyond theory. Sit comfortably, close your eyes, and select a mundane future event, receiving tomorrow's mail, perhaps. In imagination, listen to yourself or a companion describing that event in words of triumph. Look at this unexpected check. Hear the exact timbre, speed, and accent of that statement. Let it lazily 5 or 6 times, then drop it and go about the night. The next day note how quickly circumstances shape themselves to provoke a remark similar in feeling, if not verbatim, from someone nearby. The world is startlingly prompt when the order slip is crisp. Keep a written tally for 30 days. Divide the page into 2 columns, one for reactive phrases caught and cancelled, the other for deliberate phrases planted and heard aloud. You will witness a shift in ratios, cancellations shrinking, plantings expanding, mirrored by a parallel shift in daily experience, fewer petty irritations, more convenient surprises. Data persuades the intellect, freeing intuition to guide with greater ease. Some ask whether disciplined inner speech breeds stale monotony, fearing life reduced to scripted monotone. Quite the opposite. The disciplined musician is freer to improvise than the novice, because his fingers obey intention without strain. Likewise, when you command language within, spontaneous outer conversations sparkle with wit and generosity. Resentment loses stage rights. Friends remark on serenity they feel in your presence without knowing you rehearse peace as carefully as an actor rehearses lines until improvisation flows. Finally, approach nightly sleep as the board meeting where words finalize contracts for tomorrow. Lie still, review the day's talk as a transcript. Where sentences serve the vision, applaud them. Where they undermined it, revise them mentally until even memory reflects the new draft. Drift to sleep, hearing only the version that harmonizes with your aim. In that drowsy interval you are both clerk and chairman. The subconscious signs whatever minutes you approve and executes them at dawn. So attend to inner speech with the loyalty of a lighthouse keeper polishing glass against gathering salt. The light must shine unmarred, for ships unseen depend upon its steady pulse, and the vessel most in need of that guidance is your own unfolding life, forever navigating toward the harbor you name with every whispered line. Imagine that every desire you hold is already a motion picture finished, edited, and stored in a vast archive outside time, waiting only for you to choose which reel to project onto the theater screen of experience. Your task is not to build the entire film from scratch. It is to lift a single shimmering frame from the archive and hold it close until its colors stain your inner vision. Select one small scene that could exist only if your wish were accomplished, a moment so condensed that it tells the whole story without a single exposition card. If your aim is financial ease, do not stretch out on a mental chase counting stacks of currency for hours on end. Instead, see a friend clasp your hand with a look of sincere delight and hear the words, "Congratulations on settling the mortgage." If health is your goal, picture yourself bounding up a flight of stairs and pausing at the landing to savor the effortless rhythm of breath that once eluded you. The power lies in brevity. 5 seconds of pure implication weigh more than 50 minutes of hazy daydreaming, because the subconscious mind, like an expert jeweler, values clarity of cut above bulk of stone. The scene must be filmed in first-person perspective, as though the camera lens sits behind your own eyes. You cannot watch yourself from across the room the way an audience watches an actor. That position relegates the desire to distance and postponement. Instead, reach out in imagination and feel the warmth of another palm. Notice the faint pulse beneath its skin. Sense the subtle weight of a ring circling your finger, or smell fresh ink on the page you are signing. These tactile and olfactory impressions anchor the vision in the body, and the body's acceptance is the subconscious mind's cue that something real is taking place. Sight alone can be dismissed as fancy, but a full chorus of senses persuades beyond argument. Keep the dialogue within the scene minimal and natural. A single word, a short phrase, a soft laugh, nothing more is often enough. Lengthy speeches risk pulling you back into the intellect, where you begin to edit, critique, and second-guess. The point is to slip under the threshold of analysis and bathe the deeper levels of mind in the finished feeling. I think of how a lullaby soothes a child. The melody is simple, repetitive, and therefore hypnotic. Simplicity lulls your critical faculty to rest, and in that receptive quiet the seed of fulfillment drops gently into fertile soil. Rehearse the clip at odd moments throughout the day, but above all when the world grows still upon waking, during any lull when attention is free, and most potently in the interval just before sleep claims consciousness. In that twilight the gates between conscious and subconscious stand ajar, and a whisper slips through as thunder. You gently replay your 5 seconds, then allow them to loop until you drift off. You may not recall the moment slumber overtakes you, yet the subconscious records the scene in vivid detail and sets creative forces in motion. Let the scene be accompanied by the emotion that would naturally arise were it literal fact. If it is relief, breathe as one who has just set down a heavy burden. If it is elation, feel laughter bubbling up, even if silent. Emotion is the adhesive that fastens the frame to the psyche. Without it, the picture slides away like a sticker with no glue. Avoid straining for feeling. Court it playfully, as a host freshens the cushions before honored guests arrive. Keep vigilant against the temptation to tweak the scene after a few days. Many abandon the original clip in search of something more exciting, yet each change is like digging up a planted seed to check whether it has sprouted. Hold the vision steady until it settles into the background of thought, no longer novel, no longer exciting, merely obvious. Obviousness is the infallible sign that the subconscious has accepted the suggestion. When you can conjure the scene and it feels like an old memory rather than a future hope, it is ready to externalize. You will soon notice small ripples in the outer world, fragments of conversation echoing the phrases you imagined, articles that mirror the theme, casual invitations that seem curiously aligned. Do not clutch at these as the final answer. They are only the bridge of incidents carrying you from assumption to physical fact. Cross each span gratefully and keep the inner reel playing until the destination materializes in full color and surround sound. If doubts intrude, this is foolish. Nothing is happening. Respond by returning to the scene with renewed softness. Do not argue with negative thoughts. Persuasion by logic is a losing battle, because doubt can always invent a stronger rebuttal. Instead, like a mother humming over a restless infant, glide back into the sensory clip and let the calm certainty of lived fulfillment rock the mind to quiet. Teach this method to a child and watch how swiftly results appear. Children have not yet learned to distrust imagination. They accept a picture as reality the instant it feels delightful. One evening, guide a youngster to imagine scoring the winning goal in tomorrow's game, the roar of the crowd, the shock of the ball against the net, with teammates piling on in celebration. You will witness how easily that 5-second movie repeats behind their eyes as they fall asleep. And you may witness with equal delight the unfolding of a remarkably similar scene on the field the next day. Such demonstrations rekindle adult faith and underscore the naturalness of the process. Contain a simple journal dedicated to these rehearsals. Note the date you began a particular scene and jot down any outward echoes that follow. This record not only builds conviction but trains perception to notice subtleties it once overlooked. Patterns emerge, timelines shorten, confidence deepens, and you graduate from student to connoisseur of imaginal craft. Eventually, the practice becomes as instinctive as breathing. At the hint of a new wish, you will immediately compose its essence into a 5-second pearl and tuck it into the oyster shell of mind, certain that the currents of life will polish it into a tangible gem. With each success, the gap between inner preview and outer premiere narrows, until desire and fulfillment stand so close they seem simultaneous. The archive yields its treasures to the one who understands that reality is not authored on the stage but in the projection booth, where a single luminous frame, cherished and repeated, commands the whole house to see what has already been decided in secret. Picture the instant when the body slackens and the mind begins to drift as a secret doorway, one that opens for only a few breath beats between waking vigilance and the velvet dark of sleep. All day long you may press an imaginal scene against the closed gates of the subconscious and find them sturdily barred, but in that twilight span the sentries grow drowsy, their spears droop, and even the faintest whisper slips through to become law. This is why every tradition has, in one phrasing or another, told its seekers to commune upon the bed, to ponder in the night watches, to seal instructions upon the heart during slumber. They are all pointing to the same hinge of consciousness, the threshold where thought turns plastic and stamps its impress upon the hidden workshop that fabricates tomorrow's facts. Begin by arranging your body as a shipbuilder prepares a hull for launching, still, level, free of unnecessary tension. Lie flat if possible, spine relaxed, hands grazing the thighs, and let the breath settle into a slow oceanic rhythm. As muscles soften, imagine you are sinking backward into a warm pool. Each exhalation lowers you another inch beneath the surface of worldly cares. Soon the sounds of the house blur, your eyelids grow pleasantly heavy, and you sense that curious floating sensation in the skull, the unmistakable sign that reason's grip is loosening. Now, before thought dissolves into the aimless kaleidoscope of ordinary dreaming, lift the 5-second clip you have crafted during the day and place it gently before the mind's eye. Do not watch it like a cinema patron slumped in a velvet seat. You must step inside the frame and wear it as one slips into a tailored coat. Feel the fabric of the scene conform to the contours of your awareness. If your sequence is a friend's handshake, experience the slight coolness of their skin, the squeeze of familiarity, the creak of leather in your belt as you lean forward. If it is the rhythmic ease of a restored body, notice the subtle expansion of ribs, the springiness in calves, the clean click of joints long freed from ache. Let the scene breathe, but do not extend it. 5 seconds is enough. The subconscious, like fertile soil, requires a tiny kernel, not an entire stalk, to grow a harvest. As the image runs, marry it to the emotion that proves it is true. Gratitude is splendid because it presupposes receipt. Confidence serves equally well, for it evinces possession without fuss. Whichever feeling comes most naturally, allow it to perfume the moment until the scene glows with quiet certainty. At this stage, words are superfluous. The deeper mind communicates in impressions, not paragraphs. If stray thoughts dart in lists to remember, echoes of the day treat them as children who have wandered into an opera house. Smile inwardly, shepherd them to the lobby, and return to the audience chamber where your 5-second masterpiece plays on a loop. Soon you will notice the picture beginning to take you rather than you taking it. The boundary between deliberate imagining and spontaneous dream softens. The clip repeats of its own accord, perhaps altering minor details yet retaining the central fact of fulfillment. When that automatic replay begins, your work is finished for the night. Trust the subconscious to record every nuance and file it among the orders to be executed. Give yourself permission to fall fully asleep inside the wish, the way a child dozes off clutching a beloved toy. In the morning you may wake with only the vaguest memory of having rehearsed it, but the seed is planted and will send out roots beneath the garden of events. Students often ask whether they should visualize multiple desires in this interval: love, finances, health, all in one nocturnal sitting. Resist the urge. The threshold is precious but brief. Scattering attention is like trying to water an orchard with a teacup. Choose one clear desire, preferably the one most charged with feeling. When that blossoms visibly in experience, it will stoke faith so powerfully that planting additional seeds later becomes effortless. Success feeds upon itself. Others worry they might fall asleep before finishing the mental clip and thus fail in their practice. The opposite is true. Drifting off mid-scene is ideal. The final picture lodging in consciousness as you cross the border is precisely what the subconscious will take as instruction. I think of it as loading the film projector and then dozing in the booth while the reel spins into the dreamscape, casting images on the widescreen of tomorrow. A practical refinement accelerates results. Through the day, cultivate drowsy mini-moments. Whenever you sense natural fatigue after lunch, on a quiet bus ride, during a lull at the desk, close your eyes for 60 seconds. Let the body droop just enough to mimic the night threshold and replay the 5-second scene once or twice. These catnaps of imagination keep the suggestion vibrant and reassure the subconscious that this state of fulfilled fact is your preferred dwelling, not a nocturnal novelty. Measure progress not by instant fireworks but by subtler clues: arrested optimism upon waking, a sudden disinterest in worrying commentary, small coincidences aligning with the imaginal act. Record them in a notebook headed Bridges of Sleep. Each bridge crossed is evidence that the builders within have read your blueprint and begun construction. When the final structure stands, the job offer, the clear diagnosis, the reconciled relationship pause before rushing to new projects. Relive the journey from first bedtime rehearsal to tangible outcome. Let satisfaction steep deep into memory, for it becomes the wellspring of future faith. Should nightmares or restlessness plague your efforts, do not be discouraged. Agitated dreams often signify that the subconscious is rearranging old furniture to make room for the new tenant of assumption. Persist with gentleness. Replace unsettling images the next night with the calm loop once more and affirm inwardly, all that happens in sleep conspires for my glad outcome. Soon the inner household settles, and the night becomes a trusted ally. Master this art, and you discover that the pillow is a printing press. Each evening you slide between sheets as a sovereign signing decrees, stamping them with the seal of feeling, dispatching them into the vast bureaucracy of unseen agencies that govern circumstance. Dawn brings the first courier bearing a coded reply. By noon more arrive. Within days or weeks the full proclamation is enacted. You will never again consider sleep a passive surrender, but a royal audience at which the fate of your empire is quietly arranged by the shapes you dare to dream on the soft edge of night. Walk into tomorrow as one who has already arrived. The outer world may still show unfinished scaffolding, but your inner mansion is complete, furnished, and echoing with the laughter of fulfilled desire. The secret is to treat every sense impression as an actor auditioning for a part it may or may not receive in the final production. When a bank statement whispers lack or a mirror murmurs infirmity, thank the auditioning voice and calmly decline its services, for the role has been cast. Abundance, strength, harmony. So much harmony. Your only responsibility is to keep rehearsing the chosen script until the entire company of circumstances bows to its authority. Begin at the breakfast table. The cereal may be ordinary, the tea lukewarm, yet eat and drink as the triumphant beneficiary of yesterday's decree. Let the flavor carry the silent toast. Here sits one whose objective is accomplished. Do not announce this aloud. Inner certainty, not public proclamation, moves the power that shapes events. As you dress, feel fabric sliding over a body already healed, already toned, already glowing with vitality. When you slip shoes onto your feet, imagine they are the polished pair you will wear to the celebration dinner that marks the desire's obvious arrival. Every seemingly trivial movement becomes a ceremonial act, consecrating the end as present. Step outside and greet weather, traffic, and time delays with the courtesy due minor characters. A red light may extend your journey, but you sit in the driver's seat of consciousness unfazed, for the fulfilled version of you is never late. Instead of drumming fingers on the steering wheel, smile at passers-by, silently thanking them for playing their roles in the unfolding bridge of incidents. This composure is not pretense, it is loyalty to the reality already claimed within. The outer scene is merely catching up, frame by frame, to the inner film you previewed on the screen of imagination. Colleagues may present challenges. Clients may hesitate. Appliances may malfunction. None of it matters. Each disturbance is an echo from the earlier state you have abandoned. We treat echoes as artifacts, not omens. Respond with the serenity of one who knows the equilibrium has shifted permanently in favor of the wish fulfilled. If a coworker reports dire rumors about the market, silently bless their concern and reaffirm, in my world, opportunities bloom like spring after rain. Then proceed to act from that premise. Send the proposal, make the call, order the materials, confident that unseen coordinators are arranging supportive outcomes. Carry yourself physically in harmony with the end. Shoulders lift, gait lengthens, gaze steadies. The body is an obedient servant, posture becomes prophecy. When doubt tries to slump you forward, straighten as though balancing a crown. A regal spine instructs the subconscious to keep royal company, and events hasten to comply. 50 steps taken in sovereign alignment can dissolve worries incubated by hours of anxious pacing. Language, too, must reflect dominion. Retire phrases like "I hope," "I'm trying," "with my luck," for they leak power. Replace them with quiet assertions: "I look forward to," "I appreciate," "I welcome." Speak as one giving thanks for delivery, not as a supplicant pleading at a locked gate. The gate stands open. Walk through it by letting your words match your rightful status. Mid-afternoon slumps often tempt the imagination to backslide. When energy flags, close your eyes for 60 seconds. Recall the 5-second scene you planted at night. Feel its reality saturate the senses. Then open your eyes refreshed. This micro-sabbatical is like tapping a tuning fork. It restores the vibration you chose to inhabit, and external affairs align to the renewed frequency. 2 or 3 such pauses a day keep inner conviction bright while outer evidence gathers momentum. Some fret that acting from the end breeds passivity, as though confidence means sitting idly until miracles plop onto the doorstep. On the contrary, true conviction sparks intelligent action. The inventor who knows the patent is already granted rises early to sketch circuitry. The athlete certain of victory trains with heightened focus. Their behavior accelerates bridges instead of forcing outcomes. You will notice inspired ideas arriving unbidden. Call a long-forgotten acquaintance, visit a particular website, stroll a different route home. Obey these intuitive nudges without fuss. They are waypoints laid down by the version of you who already lives on the other side of completion. Evening offers a final examination of fidelity. As you review the day, ask, did I react as the fulfilled self or the waiting self? Where the latter slipped in moments of irritation, twinges of doubt, apply gentle revision. Reimagine the scene as it would unfold for the one who already possesses the prize, the calm nod, the friendly reply, the unbothered laugh. By rewriting memory, you teach the subconscious that only responses congruent with success are acceptable. The amended footage replaces the original on the reels of cause, and tomorrow's projection improves accordingly. Keep a ledger titled Evidence of Fulfillment. Record every hint that mirrors your inner state, an unexpected compliment, a relevant article, a sudden cancellation that frees space for something better. These small confirmations build an edifice of certainty brick by brick. Over weeks the ratio shifts, hints swell into unmistakable events, until at last the defining scene appears in physical form as naturally as sunrise. When it does, note your reaction. If surprise mingles with gratitude, you have been practicing faith. If calm recognition predominates, you have mastered living in the end. The discipline is simple, though never casual. It asks that you privilege imagination over observation, loyalty to the unseen over servitude to the apparent. Persist, and the day comes when outer facts cease arguing. They kneel instead, acknowledging the sovereignty of the state you steadfastly occupied. From that vantage you will survey former worries as one surveys distant lands once visited, interesting but irrelevant, for your citizenship has changed. And with citizenship secured, you are free to teach others how to walk each day within the borders of a yet invisible kingdom, until that kingdom rises, brick by obedient brick, around their confident steps. A bridge of incident is the subtle architecture by which desire tiptoes from the hush of imagination onto the bright pavement of fact. And the art of noting these bridges trains the mind to recognize the hidden carpenters at work. Consider the moment you decide to own a sunlit apartment, and days later, overhear strangers on a bus praising a neighborhood you had never explored. That overheard praise is not irrelevant chatter, it is the first plank laid across the gulf between vision and manifestation. If you shrug it off, the plank remains unlit and your inner eye stays nearsighted. If you jotted down bus conversation about Elm Crescent, 3 p.m. You illuminate the wood and invite the next beam to snap into place. Each recorded hint is a lantern. Together they reveal the invisible span carrying you over circumstances that once looked impassable. The subconscious loves acknowledgement. When you capture even the slightest echo of your assumption and advertisement matching your mental picture, a friend's offhand remark mirroring your wish, you send appreciation down to the level where currents are choreographed. Appreciation is a signal that says, more of this, please. Like a gardener praising the first green shoot, you coax the entire row to rise. Some dismiss coincidences as mere probability, but probability itself is clay in the hands of directed consciousness. By writing coincidence beside the date in a small notebook, you stamp the clay with a purposeful seal and give it shape. Form a daily ritual. Keep a pocket journal or a dedicated note in your phone titled Bridges. Morning and night scan the previous hours for incidents, however minor, that resonate with the fulfilled state. A feather on the windowsill might seem trivial until you recall yesterday's imaginal stroll along a beach. A sudden craving for Italian food might feel random until you recognize the restaurant logo matches the font you pictured on the storefront of your future business. Record them all without weighing their worth. The subconscious weighs for you, and it never loses track of a single grain. The practice refines awareness in two directions. First, it sensitizes perception. As you collect bridges, you begin to notice that the world thrums with subtle callbacks to your inner activity. A billboard you once ignored now flashes meaning. The order of songs on a playlist seems to comment on your private plans. Strangers repeat phrases from your internal dialogue. These recognitions are not hallucinations but pattern recognition muscles growing stronger. Second, it conditions expectation. The mind that expects cooperation from life greets surprises as guidance rather than interference. A delayed flight becomes an arranged pause to meet a future collaborator. A misplaced key nudges you to find the envelope you needed anyway. Recording such shifts trains you to ask, how is this aiding my assumption? Instead of, why is this happening to me? The bridge ledger also dissolves impatience. Many abandon imaginal work because they cannot see progress and assume nothing is happening. Yet progress is often microscopic before it becomes monumental, just as ice forms from invisible molecular alignment before crystals appear. The notebook reveals the molecules. Read a week's entries aloud and you will hear a narrative threading through disparate days, steering toward the scene you set in the silence. Confidence returns, and with confidence comes persistency, and with persistency comes the day when the apartment key jingles in your palm or the healed body carries you up the stairs two at a time. Guard against the temptation to rate incidents as good or bad. Bridges can resemble obstacles until hindsight exposes their alignment. A sudden job loss might at first seem contrary to prosperity, yet it could free the calendar for the interview that fulfills your professional dream. Write it down neutrally. Position ended, 11 a.m. Neutrality keeps the channel open, judgment dams the river. Later, when the larger pattern emerges, you will marvel at the precision with which each plank was placed, even the plank disguised as a setback. Here the notebook with a bodily anchor. Each time you detect a bridge, press thumb and forefinger together lightly and exhale once with gratitude. This tactile cue imprints recognition deeper than thought alone and turns awareness into instinct. Soon the simple pressure of finger and thumb will summon a flood of remembered proofs whenever doubt attempts to intrude. Teach the practice to a friend and compare notes weekly. Shared testimony multiplies conviction. It also broadens your ability to perceive, for another's story might highlight a form of bridge you previously overlooked. Perhaps you observe conversations, while they notice repeating numbers or vivid dreams. Cross-pollination enriches both gardens, and the collective faith formed by witnessing each other's bridges accelerates results for everyone involved. Finally, celebrate openly when the end scene arrives, but do not close the notebook. Continue logging evidence, because life will keep offering confirmations long after physical fulfillment. These post-manifestation bridges have a purpose. They train you to expect success as normal rather than extraordinary. When success feels normal, the next desire embarks on its journey across the bridge with far less resistance, for the path is now familiar, the ledger already thick with precedent, and the mind eager to script yet another triumphant crossing. Each evening grants a chance to become time's quiet editor, to dip the quill of imagination in the inkwell of feeling and rewrite today so that it seeds a sweeter tomorrow. The moment lies between brushing your teeth and surrendering to sleep, when the day's scenes still flicker in memory, but the stagehands of consciousness have begun dimming the lights. Instead of letting those scenes spool unaltered into the archives of subconscious belief, deliberately revise any episode that bruised your mood or opposed your ideal. Do not argue with the event or judge yourself for attracting it. Simply lift it, soften its edges, and shape it into the outcome you would have preferred. The mind, like an impressionable child, remembers the last story told before drifting off. By giving it a happy synopsis, you appoint it curator of a brighter script. Begin with small incidents, for subtlety sharpens skill. Suppose a clerk spoke curtly and irritation lingered all afternoon. Close your eyes and replay the moment. But this time hear a warm greeting, see a courteous smile, feel mutual respect. Allow the new version to bloom until the muscles of your face relax and a genuine sense of harmony replaces the earlier sting. Breathe once, seal the revision with gratitude, and let the scene fade. The subconscious ever literal files the corrected image as fact and adjusts future encounters to match. You will notice clerks, baristas, and strangers grow friendlier, as though the world received its own lesson in manners overnight. Advance to weightier memories. If a doctor delivered troubling news, rerun the conversation with the assurance of excellent results. Sense relief flooding your chest. Observe the physician's delighted expression. Hear the words, "Everything is clear." Dwell there until relief feels more plausible than anxiety. Consciously repeating an amended dialogue neutralizes the emotional charge of the original and instructs the body's cells to align with the new decree. Reports of spontaneous improvement often follow persistent revision, not because physical laws were bypassed, but because those laws obey the revised blueprint held in mind. When revising, trust sensations over words. The intellect may protest, But that's not what happened. Thank it for its record-keeping and invite it to rest. You are working in the theater of causation, not the courtroom of fact. Engage the senses that would verify the better result: touch, taste, scent, sound, sight. Feel the velvet grip of a congratulatory handshake. Smell fresh paint in the new office. Hear laughter where there had been argument. Sensory richness persuades the subconscious swiftly, for it traffics in impressions, not logic. Some nights the mind resists correction, brandishing memories like sharp stones. Do not wrestle, lull resistance with repetition. Whisper a gentle phrase that captures the essence of the revision: all is well and harmoniously resolved, until the words melt into a lullaby. The emotional temperature drops, defenses loosen, and the amended scene slips past the guard. Persistence without strain is the key. A mother humming beside a restless crib succeeds not by force but by steady softness. We keep a ledger titled Revised Memories. Each morning jot a sentence describing what you rewrote and note any shift, however slight, that appeared during the day: an apology received, a schedule change removing the problem, a sudden lift in mood. Over weeks patterns emerge. You will observe how quickly life echoes the edited footage. This empirical evidence anchors faith, transforming revision from hopeful exercise to dependable tool. You may wonder whether altering memory distorts reality. Realize that objective events are already filtered by perception the instant they occur. Two witnesses describe the same accident with contradictory details. Each memory is a subjective portrait painted by bias. By revising, you consciously choose the bias that serves growth and goodwill. Far from deception, it is the highest honesty to infuse recollection with grace, for grace is closer to the mind's true creative nature than fear or grievance. Use revision proactively as well as retroactively. Before entering sleep, project yourself to a future point, perhaps tomorrow's meeting, and play it as triumphantly concluded. Then, if during the actual meeting tension arises, later that evening rewrite it again, smoothing any roughness, sealing the new outcome. This compound method layers consciousness with identical victories, reinforcing a neural pattern that the outer world is compelled to print in durable ink. Children grasp revision instinctively. After a fall, they imagine running with effortless speed moments later, tears evaporating as if the tumble never occurred. Observe and imitate their speed of replacement. The adult tendency to brood petrifies unwanted images. The child's quick swap dissolves them before they harden. Return to that pliability, revise promptly, forgive swiftly, expect improvement. On nights when nothing disagreeable happens, still practice. Select an ordinary episode: pouring tea, answering email, and enhance it. Add more sunlight through the window, a pleasant aroma, a compliment received. Such embellishments teach the subconscious that even neutral moments are candidates for upgrade, fostering a general upward drift in mood and circumstance. Life becomes a canvas eager for brighter strokes, and creativity flows into every mundane corner. If sleep overtakes you mid-revision, rejoice. The subconscious was listening to your last coherent picture and will continue the revision in dream. Many awaken from luminous scenarios that complete the work, feeling as though their desire has already unfolded. Treat those dreams as confirmations. Jot them in the ledger with the same respect given to waking bridges. Over time, the interval required for revised memories to manifest externally shortens. Like a musician who finds scales once laborious now glide beneath the fingers, you will revise a friction with a friend at night and receive a cordial message by noon. Eventually, the habit of immediate interpretation sets in. The moment discord arises, a silent correction overlays vision even while the scene still plays, dissolving potential friction before it solidifies. Thus, nightly revision transforms memory from static archive into living clay, forever reshaped by the sculptor of feeling-imbued thought. It redeems the past, steadies the present, and architects the future with one graceful stroke of imagination each time darkness falls and the mind turns inward for its orders. Let the message settle where words give way to knowing. You are already holding the master key. Every premise we explored: thought as living substance, fearless ownership of circumstance, disciplined inner speech, the 5-second imaginal clip, the drowsy threshold, walking in the end, noting each bridge, and nightly revision forms a single circuit. Close it, and the current of consciousness lights the whole house of experience with unbroken power. Begin each morning by claiming the fulfilled feeling before your feet find the floor. Guard the day with inner sentences that match it. Welcome every coincidence as a plank laid beneath your next step. When dusk returns, revise whatever jars the melody, then fall asleep inside the scene you prefer. In this simple rhythm, you breathe infinity into time, inhaling the unseen, exhaling its evidence. Disperse gently yet relentlessly. Doubt will fade from lack of rehearsal, outer facts will reorder themselves to applaud your new conviction. Soon you will look upon the world as a friendly mirror, forever reflecting the tone you choose to strike, and you will teach others not by argument, but by the quiet radiance of a life continuously, consciously, beautifully assumed.